This industry either spits you out quick or it holds on to you for a lifetime. And after 25 years in the industry, I love it. I think intentional silence is underrated. Right now, when companies are working twice as hard to get half as much, it's more important than ever to stop and celebrate those little wins in between. They make us better, they make us stronger, they make us faster. But at the center of it, you still need that. You still need that human heart. It's not about us making sales. It's about the buyer having a problem that we can solve.
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Pass the Pitch podcast. Today, I'm joined by the founder of Great Recruiters. Adam, I have to say what I love about your About section on LinkedIn is you talk about being a recruiter and you remember the frustration and you could be doing everything right, but there was no consistent, the feedback was late. You had no authentic way to prove like the work that you were actually doing. So recognition was limited to just basic, numbers. And that's where the idea of Great Recruiters came from. And I really look forward to you sharing a bit more for those who are not familiar, which I would be in shock because I feel Great Recruiters is such a staple in our industry. So Adam, welcome to the show.
Well, Anna, thank you. I appreciate it. And this industry either spits you out quick or it holds on to you for a lifetime. And after 25 years in the industry, I love it. And you're right. I mean, I think part of my journey was being up against an industry reputation that wasn't great, and I saw a bigger opportunity to do something for the industry, for the recruiters out there. And I think real-time feedback and we'll unpack a lot of it, makes a huge difference, not just to the individual, but to the culture. And I'm excited to share that story, but it is born out of love for this industry and for the recruiters out there. And that's what we're all about.
I love that. So why don't we get started? I always like to start with like some kind of like leadership, thought-provoking question. And so what would you say is the best business decision you almost did make and what pushed you over the edge? Because a lot of times those mistakes are insightful as to what happens next.
Yeah. Well, I've made a lot of mistakes, so there's a long list to think about. Which I've always loved the intersection of like technology and people. And early in my career, I was really interested in why aren't there reviews? Why can't we review hiring managers? Why can't we review the end client? They're the problem, right? They're the ones that are taking long. And so I had this idea of creating a review platform for companies, and everybody told me there's no way, there's too much HR issues. And as a young kid, I was like, I listened. And 2 years later, Glassdoor was born. Years later, I think they exited for like 1.2 billion. And when I was on a family vacation and, in recruiting, you don't get a lot of time off. And it's like, you're always, it's always the next email, the next deal. And I took a nice week off and it gave some clarity. And I had a moment where I was like, recruiters need reviews. There was a gentleman that was at the bar. He knew us, he got to know us. And at the end of our vacation, he handed me a business card and said, Adam, would you provide me a review on the service I provided? This isn't about the company. This isn't about the resort. It's about how I did, what I did for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what needs to happen for the recruiting industry. And people doubted it. I heard a lot of the same voices come out as when I was very early in my career. And I just said, you know what? I'm going with my gut. I'm going with my passion. I think this is something that the industry needs. I think it's something that staffing firms, recruiting agencies, recruiters need. And I went full forward. And I think for me, that early regret of not acting on what I saw pushed me to say, you know what, I'm going to leave my agency life. I had a great job, great company, but I thought there was a bigger opportunity out there. And I think that moment of regret was something I was like, I'm not going to live with that anymore. There's too many times you look back and say, I wish I had. Um, wherever this ends up, I want to look back in the mirror and say, you know what, I tried, I did it, and I didn't want to live with that regret. So I think that was probably for me one of the biggest life and business decisions, arguably I've ever made.
That's incredible, and you know what? It is amazing because sometimes, like, a decision like that, it could discourage you and say, "Oh, well, I'm done. I'm not gonna do anything else." But if anything, you pulled yourself up by the bootstraps and said, "No, hang on a second. I got great ideas here, and I'm not gonna live another day and not do it." Not to paraphrase what you're saying, but that's what I
Yeah.
take away from it. So I love that passion and that drive.
And I think when you have idea and you have vision, I think that if everybody had it, everybody would be doing it. And so I would say to anybody out there that has an idea that explores it, don't listen to the outside. Trust what your gut is and what it's saying, and figure it out. And if it's something you truly believe in and you're passionate about, do it. Like, don't live with that regret, because if everybody believed if everybody had that same vision, it would already exist. And so when you see those opportunities that don't exist, lean into it, especially if you have the passion like I had for the industry and still have.
Right.
Um, it's just a moment that you don't want to look back and say, God, I wish I would have.
Right, exactly, exactly. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about underrated skill traits, right? So this is another favorite topic of mine. So what's one underrated skill or trait that people in sales or leadership should master? And I would even add, recruiting into the mix.
This is something that I'm actively working on. My wife might agree with me a bit, but I think intentional silence is underrated. I think being able to be silent in the right moments, and not just silent from an active listening perspective, but really leaning into silence to um, assess a situation, to really lean in and listen to what somebody's saying. Many times we're thinking about, like in sales, we're thinking about what we're going to say next. We're thinking about what we're going to say next. Or when it's a big close, sometimes those uncomfortable silent moments, I always admire those people that in those uncomfortable silent moments that they can sit stoic. And I'm working on that, because I think it gives all parties the opportunity to really just kind of absorb the moment, the situation, and come with clarity. And I think we're so fast to react, and we're so fast to have the next thing to say, that it's something that I really think is not a skill that I see a lot of people using actively, and it's something I'm definitely focused on being better at.
So I love this because most salespeople are extroverted in personality. So being silent is probably the hardest thing on the planet to be able to do. And a tidbit that I often share with salespeople is when you're negotiating and you're that tough deal that you mentioned, he who speaks first loses, because that's the key is you literally have to bite your tongue and sit there and let the other person speak, because then the direction that the conversation is going in. So definitely mastering the art of being silent, I think, is a great characteristic and a great trait that we should look at. How do you keep your team motivated when results aren't coming as fast as expected? And a lot of people have been experiencing that through 2025 and 2024.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a baseball coach, and I think about recruiting very much along the lines of a batter. Batters get a lot of at bats. They can do everything right, and they can still not get good results. And I think that is also like recruiting. You can do everything right, have the right something can happen that can cause you to lose that deal, or maybe somebody just makes a better play in the baseball side. And so I think that what we need to celebrate when times are tough or when somebody's in a slump is is you have to celebrate the moments in between. And I think for staffing leaders and a lot of leaders out there, we want to celebrate the big hits. We want to celebrate the placements. One of the things we don't celebrate is the process, that we're
Mm.
doing the things right, that we there's a lot of good that comes in it. You made a great relationship with a great candidate. It didn't turn out now, but you planted a seed. And I think far too often we're so quick to move on. And I really think that you need to lean in. And it's a lot of the feedback we get just with our platform is like recruiters are like, they feel so good. They feel motivated, empowered, validated when they're getting that real-time feedback from candidates that they never placed, but they're getting that appreciation that the work that they're doing is meaningful. And I think like right now, when companies are working twice as hard to get half as much, it's more important than ever to stop and celebrate those little wins in between, because I think it comes back with a big word that I always think about is purpose.
Mhm.
People need purpose, and if you're a recruiter and your only purpose is to make placements, it can get really dire sometimes, when things are tough, when orders aren't coming in, when the candidates aren't closing. And so you need to look at a purpose bigger than the pay, which is the placement. And I think you need to find the purpose in what you're doing and the relationship you're connecting with. But ultimately, you got to celebrate the little wins when things are tough. You really have to.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a golden nugget that the audience can kinda walk away with is the facts of we live in a numbers-driven society, so you measure those numbers only. But not hitting the pause button and looking at the process and the success in the process because that builds your funnel, right? That feeds into, what's the expression? Activity leads to productivity, which leads to results. So it's like being able to celebrate each phase of that. So I appreciate that, and I think those are very, very sound words of wisdom as far as for the audience. I wanted to ask, what's one mindset shift that unlocks new growth for you and your team, where you kind of had to do a pivot and it just opened up a whole new way of doing things?
I think when you start a new product like we did, and it's a blue ocean, right? There isn't really any competition. There's nobody really doing it. A lot of your time up front is talking about features and feet. This is what we do. This is what we do. We're excited about it. And I think one of the shifts that we made, and I think there's also just a big shift overall about how consumers uh, take in information, make buying decisions. And I think it really for us was shifting from focusing this on a sales process that we're trying to sell a software, that we're trying to sell a solution, to more of a buyer's journey and walking hand in hand with the buyer because it's about them. It's not about us making sales. It's about the buyer having a problem that we can solve, understanding how we solve that and helping them along the way of being able to make that decision and have peace of mind that they're making a decision that's going to help themselves. And so I think that's been a mind shift for us. 80, I think I just heard a stat like 85% of people that are buying something have done all of their research before they spoke to anybody. And we're in a world now that wasn't the case, 8, 9, 10 years ago. We have all the information at our fingertips and we need to help them make those educated decisions by creating more education, awareness, and not trying to just close that deal, but make sure that we're solving that problem, because that's what makes you sticky and valuable.
Yeah, and that's a great point as far as doing that paradigm shift and looking at it from a buyer's perspective. I recently had a conversation with the Gen Zer who talked about always being in the buyer's shoes, and I think
Yeah.
there's so much success with that because you start to understand their perspective a little bit better as opposed to shoehorn fitting your product and service offering into the client's organization.
Yeah, and it comes back to active listening, it comes back to maybe being a little more silent, if you're talking more than the prospect on a call, it's probably not gonna go your way because 'cause you're not seeking to understand.
And that's what I love. I love about, like, if you have a note taker, if you're doing Zoom calls or Microsoft Teams or Google Hangout, whatever, and you have a note taker, I use Otter AI, but there's plenty of tools out there. It tells you the percentage of how long have you been
It
talking versus the other person. And I still use it as a tool with salespeople that we go back and we take a look at old meeting notes so that we can evaluate, um, why'd you talk 68% of the time?
Right,
Like,
right.
the clients was sitting there for 32% of the time trying to get their word in edgewise, but you kept interrupting, right? So it's a great way
Yep.
to really focus on that.
Yeah, no, I agree, that's awesome.
All right, so now tell me about a time when a seemingly small cultural detail made a big impact on a deal or a hire or a business decision.
All right. Yeah, I just talked to a client this week, and I think as we are going through and looking at how the recruitment industry is going through a lot of changes, it's been down, it's been up, and I think for us, it was more of like resetting expectations, realigning our value. And I asked the client flat out, I was like, "Why do you stick with us?" I'm being really vulnerable here. Like, what is it? And they're like, "You care about people." And we care about people, and we want to do business with people who care about people because we believe that this industry, with all the tools and all the technologies, is a human-based business, and that's always been my philosophy. It's people first. It's people, process, and technology. It's not technology, process, and then people. People are what drive it all, and I think that that is something that I've just instilled, and it's about people maximizing their potential. But it was interesting to hear, like, we're with you because we align on that value that people matter. And I think you can find examples in our industry where people are trying to find ways to automate the person out, finding ways to get AI agents to replace somebody. And for us,
R-
it's like we want to use all those great tools and technologies to wrap around the individual, kind of like Iron Man, right? It's the Iron Man suit, but it's the person that's still making the decisions and driving it. And so for me, I think, I never really considered that. I think it's just been core of who we are. But to hear that feedback that, like, your care about people is why we want to continue investing in your success as well, was just really, really good to hear.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. I also love your analogy of Iron Man. I think I might have to start using it too. I'll give you credit for it. I
Feel
would,
free.
yeah.
But it's true. I mean, think about that movie, and there's moments where the technology was saying this, but the humans said, "No, this is the right way." And I think
Right.
that's the way we need to look at all the changes that are happening from an AI and technology perspective, is that there are body armor. They make us better, they make us stronger, they make us faster. But at the center of it, you still need that human heart.
No, that's fantastic. All right, so Adam, now we're gonna have a little bit of fun. I'm gonna just send you a bunch of, or say to you a bunch of rapid fire questions, and just spew out the first thing that comes to your mouth. So, or the first thing that comes to your head. What's the weirdest email subject line you've ever received or sent?
Oh, this is tough. I don't know. Uh, this week, all right, one that came to mind was, it was like something like great recruiters and commercial plumbing, and I'm like, I have no idea how this relates, but it got me to read the email. Now, unfortunately, I think it was AI driven, and it was a huge miss because it said something about turning my commercial plumbing business and expertise into a top 5% podcast. Big miss. But I'll tell you what, sometimes maybe there's something there that just be so off the wall that somebody's like, what are they saying? But that was a weird one for me. So I have to see what commercial plumbing lists I'm actively on.
Right, exactly. That's fantastic. Okay, if your sales pitch had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh, that's I am so bad with artists and names, but I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. Like, I think that's sales. I think that's life. I think that's business. I think that's mentality. I think it's we're all going to deal with a bag of, you know, and
Right.
it's how you deal with it. And sometimes you're down a little longer than you want, but it's about the action of getting up. So for me, I don't think there's a better verse. I couldn't sing the rest of the song, but that always sticks and it's got a good beat. So I would say
It does.
definitely I get knocked down, but I get up again.
I love that. Okay, so if you had to give yourself a completely ridiculous job title based on what you actually do all day, what would it be?
I'm a dog person, but I will say this, I would be the managing director of herding cats. Uh, I I think, this there's a lot going on, and it's like you got a pile over here, but then you got something over here. That I think is what my life feels like, is constantly herding cats. It's always moving, whether it's with family, kids, business, whatever it is, but I would be I might change my title today on LinkedIn to managing director of herding cats.
I mean, that is perfect, by the way, and I think you win this season as far as, like, the best job title, because I think that's so applicable to all of us in our lives, and
Yeah,
this industry in particular kind of feels that way, so, love that. Okay,
well,
if you
thanks.
had to describe your career as a type of food, what would it be and why?
Man, I think I'm a buffet. Uh, I think it's a buffet, quite honestly. I've had a really interesting just career as far as background in technical communications. I started off in IT and was going to be a programmer. I moved into recruiting, but started a business. I'm into marketing. I'm into sales. I'm into product stuff. So for me, it's a buffet. I don't think there's one food that can describe it. I think it's what you feel like that day being, or what you need to be that day. Just go up to the salad bar if that's what you need, as a little extra energy. And
Right.
some days, you just need chocolate pudding. So I think being a buffet is probably what my food type would be.
Oh my god, Adam, I love the way you think. Yes, I think that is perfect. Okay, so you have to close a deal, but you can only communicate through emojis. So what's your message?
Do I need to put them on the screen,
No,
or
no,
do I?
no. No, just say what the emoji is.
Uh my emoji, if I'm closing a deal and I need an emoji. All right, so handshake,
Come on.
deals closed, rocket ship. We're reaching the stars. Dollar
Right.
signs. We're gonna make some money together. Heart, because I think it's the people side of it, and a chart that just shows the growth of the organization.
That's great. That's great. I think that sums it up nicely in a really nice way, in a very engaging way with the client. Adam, I have to say, I cannot believe we're out of time, but I so appreciate you being on the podcast
Yeah.
and look forward to talking to you some more, actually. Definitely could see easily a follow-up in regards to our conversation. So, Adam, thank you very much.
No. Well, thank you very much, Ann. I really appreciate love the work that you're doing in the industry. This has been a great time. And so thanks so much. And I hope I was able to provide a little entertainment and value to our audience.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Our next episode is a two-parter. We talk to Adrian Sanchez and Dylan Swami on how two people can do the same job in very different ways. See you then.